Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on in to Fantasy Daily. It is that time of night. It is that exciting time. I am so stoked to be here. Thank y'all for joining me on this Friday night, because we ain't got no life. We just like fantasy football. That's all. You know how we do over here. It is just fantasy football all the time. Everybody, I got a great show for you. I got a lot of things moving on here. I got to get to my game breakdowns. I got to start doing my lineup for the weekend, my lineup versus lineup, which comes tomorrow, my game breaks down, which come tomorrow. I'm going to be on TikTok tonight live for y'all, so check me out there at Fantasy Daily Football. All the links to everything that, all my, social media stuff will be in the description below. So if you guys want to check me out on TikTok, watch the live, ask questions live, I'll be answering questions there and hanging out with you guys a little bit later tonight. Because like I said, it's Friday, and I ain't got no life. So, welcome in to episode, 39, 40? I think it's episode 40. We're getting up there. So, we're talking news today, as always. We got the Thursday Night Football review. Awesome game of football last night. Stoked about it. Y'all know I love Jonathan Taylor. I'm going to keep talking about him because I love him. I'm standing for him. So, I got him in my Dynasty League. I traded DeAndre Hopkins and Antonio Gibson to get him. And last night he puts up 33 for me, and DeAndre Hopkins might not be playing, and Antonio Gibson's on a bye week. So, woo, dodged a bullet, and I got Jonathan Taylor in Dynasty. So, pretty excited about that. Also, great game, and we're going to be talking about NFC Where Are We Now segment, the series where I talk about, it's week 9. We're over the hump of, halfway towards the end of the season. 17 weeks in the season. If you're playing your championship on the correct week, please do not play championships on week 18. So we're over halfway there now. So we're going to be looking at the teams, and since we're at that halfway point, where are we? I did AFC on yesterday's show, and the AFC East I did on the show before that. You're going to have to check that out, that little snippet that I threw in there. I tried to get all of them in. I failed. So we're going to be doing that. We're going to be talking about NFC teams that, where we feel about them now and going on for the rest of the season. So without further ado, since we have so much news to cover, let's get into it with our news intro, our new news intro. Look at that. Short, sweet, gives me a second to take a sip of my coffee, but I forgot because I was excited about the intro. So I forgot to take a sip of my coffee. Anyway, getting into the news, there was a lot today. So with this being said, I'm also going to be trying to really gear my show into a 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock start every single night. That way my show is uploaded by 8 o'clock. I'll be playing in prime time, baby. Can't put me on prime time, but on YouTube I can do it. So anyway, we'll be doing that because I had noticed today that basically every single football show or fantasy football show is filmed early on in the day. Everybody wakes up, they start their day like a normal 9 to 5. But I have the luxury where I can do whatever I want because this is my show and I do what I want. So I think we're going to make this a late show, and it'll come out late. Some nights I'll try to do it a little bit earlier, like Thursday Night Football. I'm not going to give you an episode at 8 o'clock and then the game starts 20 minutes later and you can't even watch the full show. So I'm going to try to do that every week so you can have it at night, around prime time, but also maybe you can listen to it, on the way to work in the morning while you're getting ready, something like that. And it really gives us a chance to get a full scope of what happened throughout the day. So like today, I didn't really start putting my show, all together like this to start filming until 6 o'clock because that's 3 o'clock in California. Most practices are probably over by then. You're getting, the majority of your news. You have all your alerts. So while I'm trying to put together my show and I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go, I'm inputting information as I go. So I feel like the smart thing going forward for me is to have a late show. I get the market at the end of the day where, everybody else has already done it. And I also can have a chance to share the entirety of the day's news. So if you listen to it in the morning, you already know everything that happened yesterday and previous. And then you also get the super fun segments that we talk about. So anyway, without further ado, sorry that I keep rambling. A lot of changes on here. Really trying to get this stuff, cemented in. So I appreciate y'all for staying patient with me and joining me again. But let's get into the news, and that's Odell Beckham to be released today. He was released. He's going to hit waivers. Now, the Lions have first priority. I can't remember the two behind it. But I do believe that with Odell Beckham's contract, he'll clear waivers. And then he'll be able to sign wherever he wants, and he'll probably end up on one of the teams where he doesn't belong, like the Bucs or the Kansas City Chiefs or the Baltimore Ravens or, the Buffalo Bills. Somebody who's a super, Super Bowl contender, that's where he'll end up. That's where he'll sign. So OBJ, he's to be released. If you're in a dynasty league and you want to pick him up, we talked about this yesterday. I don't hate that. If you're in a redraft league and you have a lot of room on your bench and you want to pick him up, I don't hate that either. Saquon Barkley, he is officially out for Sunday, so go ahead and get him into your IR. Play Devontae Booker. That's kind of bumming that he's out for this game. I'm pretty sure they're on bye next week. Yeah, so you don't have quads until week 11. So he's going to take a ride. Make sure you're prepared for week 10 because you're going to lose with Devontae Booker as well. But yeah, so quads is officially out. And I would not drop Devontae Booker going into the bye. Let's just say that now. You're going into the bye. Quads is coming back. Don't drop Devontae Booker. Make sure you have that insurance piece going into week 10 just in case anything happens. Too many injuries in Saquon's career to drop the handcuff now. Deebo Samuel. This is a big one. I'm getting a lot of Brandon Ayuk questions, and I don't like them. I don't like them. You guys know I don't like Brandon Ayuk, but the rule of necessity is probably going to get me to put him in my, higher up in my rankings than I want to be. But Deebo Samuel is not looking great. It's a game time decision for him, so I don't love that. George Kittle is back, though, so George Kittle will be active in this game. Elijah Mitchell has a continued rib injury, and Jeff Wilson could see action if that limits him. So Jeff Wilson and George Kittle both back. Jeff Wilson only is going to play depending on Elijah Mitchell's injury and how, severe it is. So with that, keep an eye on that. We're going to talk about Brandon Ayuk a lot. We're going to talk about that fact that Jeff Wilson's probably back. George Kittle's probably back. I know Deebo Samuel might be a game-time decision, but if Deebo Samuel's active in that game, I don't want Brandon Ayuk. So I've already caught some heat on TikTok where I'm like, hey, I wouldn't start Brandon Ayuk. And people are like, well, other fantasy outlets are telling me to start Brandon Ayuk. Okay, I get it. And I'm willing to die on that mountain if I'm wrong and he scores 25 this game. But what you saw last week was without George Kittle and Deebo Samuel there. So if Deebo Samuel is active and George Kittle is back, I'm sorry, I still have a hard time trusting Brandon Ayuk. I get it. If you're in a deep spot, you really need to reach for it. I get it, but oh, man, do I not like Brandon Ayuk. I don't. And it's going to be difficult for me to come back. It's going to be difficult. CeeDee Lamb, he looks very questionable at the moment, and I am a big CeeDee Lamb manager. I have him in quite a bit of leagues, so I'm definitely worried about CeeDee Lamb at the moment. Got to keep an eye on that. Amari Cooper, also questionable, but I do think that Amari Cooper will be in the game. Got to monitor that going into the weekend. Quite a few buys this week. Detroit, Seattle, Tampa Bay, Washington. So you're going to have to really play the fold on that one. There's probably a Giants wide receiver on the waiver that you can go ahead and grab, so I don't hate those guys. Trevor Siemian is announced as the starter for the Saints, which is super gross. They did say that Taysom Hill will play too, but come on, man. I spent a waiver priority to get Taysom Hill, and you gonna do me like this? Terrible. So Trevor Siemian, he's gonna be the starter. You're gonna see a little bit of Taysom Hill. I do think that Taysom Hill is, probably a sneaky start where he'll get those, design plays, those gadget plays for him. But if he's not getting the full game, I really don't want to start him. So that sucks. He was an awesome start this week, and now he's not because for some reason Trevor Siemian is the starter and Taysom Hill, the highly paid quarterback, is not. All right, Calvin Ridley, he has been moved to the NFI list, and he is out for 3 weeks indefinitely, or minimum, and then indefinitely afterwards, depending on what happens with Calvin Ridley. So they gave him a little vacation here. I think I want to trade Calvin Ridley. I think I want to trade Calvin Ridley to just about anything. And I know I said on my last show, we talked about Calvin Ridley where I said you could trade him for this, but I mean, now I want him off my team. Now I want Calvin Ridley off my team. And even if he has a great end of season, whatever, I'll give him to somebody else. So depending on what you can get for him, if you're hanging on to Calvin Ridley and you need a running back, I don't know, man. I might trade Calvin Ridley for Michael Carter. And I know that's gross, but Michael Carter has a chance to give you 10 points every single week. Calvin Ridley don't. So I really hate that roster block. I hate the name value there that you're not getting what you want. But see what you can get for Calvin Ridley. I don't want him on my team right now, especially going into this deep stretch. I'm fighting for playoffs. I got to be top spot with a long way to, with a long gap in between me and second and third for me to want to keep Calvin Ridley right now. Devonta Parker, he had a setback and he is back on IR, or no, that might be his first IR stint. I don't remember. But Devonta Parker has been moved to IR. He will also miss 3 weeks. So Jalen Waddle, managers, be happy. Noah Fant, he will remain on IR this week as well. So he too is out. Look at that unintentional product placement. Kyler Murray and Nook still not practicing, still not at the media portion of practice, which means they weren't there, and that is very, very concerning. If you have Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins, I think you need to look into your pivot options right now, because this is not great at all. So Kyle Murray and Nook still not there. Got to keep an eye on it. Davonte Adams has been activated from the IR. So Davonte Adams, all the owners there, all the managers there who are, worried, oh, Aaron Rodgers isn't in. Davonte Adams is quarterback proof. We've talked about this many, many years over. He had Brett Hundley and he still balled out. Davonte Adams is quarterback proof. You play Davonte Adams no matter what. Moving on to the Thursday night review. Not much to talk about here. If you guys watched the game, it was pretty much a blowout, and then New York got to, score. In the end, it was garbage-ish time, I guess. I'm going to call it garbage time. But Jonathan Taylor, baller. I love Jonathan Taylor. I'll still go trade high for him. I'll still give up big names to get Jonathan Taylor. I love Jonathan Taylor. Pittman, he keeps it going in this one, and I'm still all about Pittman. If you guys can go trade for him, absolutely do it. Naeem Hines has a great game on the back of the matchup, which actually I remember while I was watching this game that I was trying to fire through the matchup. That way I could get to the AFC breakdown. And I left Naeem Hines out of the AFC breakdown, and the Thursday night breakdown. And then when we went into the Where Are We section for the AFC, and I talked about the Colts, I said Naeem Hines, I like him throughout the season, but he's a spot start in great matchups. And then I didn't even say that, he's playing the Jets. That could be one of those moments. So super missed opportunity from me for not getting my show doc set up properly and getting all the names in there that I should have. So Naeem Hines was criminally left off the list by me. And not saying that I would have told you to go start him, but I would have said if you can reach for somebody and you have no other options at running back, Naeem Hines is usually on the waiver wire. So not trying to hindsight and say, oh man, I would have said start him, because I wouldn't have. I would have said, deep reach if you could have. But just to note that, yes, I definitely did mess up my show doc yesterday for that. Carson Wentz, a great start in this one. Even though I told people I'd rather rather lean away from him. I said that because I thought this game was going to be super running back heavy, but even with it being super running back heavy, Carson Wentz was able to withstand both. Obviously when you're throwing touchdowns to your offensive linemen, that can happen. But good game for Wentz, really good game, and it's promising to see him perform in those games against these matchups. That way you can trust him if you need a streamer. So it's nice to see that. Jack Doyle, he sneaks in a tight touchdown here, which kills my Mo Alley Cox hype a little bit, which sucks because Mo Alley Cox was on the field for that touchdown. The play just went to the left to Jack Doyle instead of to the right. That was the design play, but they went to the left side, so instead of the right, Jack Doyle was on the left. Mo Alley Cox at the block. Dang it, lost my touchdown. So Mo Alley Cox is still going to sit in there and live in the streamer category, but I'm not going to stop talking about how much I want to see Mo Alley Cox actually be a big thing on this team. Michael Carter, he has an okay day, and that really is where he lives. So as I've been saying, I love Michael Carter, but this is really where he lives. He's playing against a great defense. The team's kind of trying to put something together, trying to come back. Michael Carter gets 9.6 points, I think it was something like that in my league, full PPR. So that's an okay day for him. That doesn't kill you in a week where you're probably running back needy, or if you're starting Michael Carter, then you lost somebody to injury or something like that. It's a bye week, so that's an okay day when you need that. So I'd still hang on to Michael Carter. In plus matchups, he's going to have wicked high upside, so I like Michael Carter a lot. Ty Johnson got the touchdown on that one, so there it is. The QB situation was a mess at one point, so they were going back and forth, and they they weren't going back and forth, but they had Mike White in, then they had Johnson in, and they just kept him in for the rest of the game. You thought Mike White was going to come back in. He didn't. Johnson stayed out. Had an okay game between the both of them. So Elijah Moore comes in, balls out. He gets the 2 touchdowns. He's going to be a hot waiver pickup. We're going to have to watch on that one. They're past their bye week, so keep an eye on what happens this week. You might be able to sneak in Elijah Moore at the end because it was the Thursday game. People might have forgotten. So Elijah Moore, he's going to be a hot pickup, but keep it in mind and then just wait until Tuesday. He might be one of the people that slips through waivers, and you can get him on Wednesday for free. Not an awful game from Crowder if you had to start him. I was telling everybody that I really like to move away from Crowder if I can. Start somebody like Rashad Bateman instead. I expect Rashad Bateman to play for context. But yeah, so I was trying to lean away from Crowder. Not an awful game for Crowder. I think he put up something like 9 points. So All right, let's get us into the NFC Where Are We picture. And I got 15 minutes left before I hit the half an hour mark. You guys know I like to try to keep this to a half an hour for you. Quick, compact information for the fantasy football community. All right, let's talk about it. Chicago. Y'all know how I feel about Chicago. Y'all know how I've been feeling about Chicago if you follow the show. And it is running back or bust for me. I don't want Allen Robinson even on my team. I'm dropping Allen Robinson for Bryan Edwards. I don't want Allen Robinson on my team at all, so I'm dropping him. Darnell Mooney popped up on the injury report today. Don't want him on my team. I don't trust the Chicago Bears passing game or offense with Justin Fields. We saw some signs of life last week with Justin Fields in the game, but Matt Nagy wasn't even there. So let's find out if Matt Nagy comes back and destroys any signs of life that Justin Fields has. So me personally, for the duration of the season and until further notice, I'm out on the wide receivers and Justin Fields as far as Chicago goes. I'm willing to drop both Darnell Mooney and Allen Robinson to get somebody else onto my team. As far as the running backs go, I'm going to stick with it right there where these running backs are going to be whoever starts. Whoever's the first starter, I'm going to put him in. I don't mind it. Khalil Herbert, I think Damian Williams is kind of isolated back. I like, obviously, David Montgomery. I've spoke highly of him for a long time, so I like David Montgomery. But David Montgomery or Khalil Herbert, whoever's the starter, I want him in the lineup. I like him. Cole Kmet at tight end. He's an interesting streamer that I think you should keep an eye on as you go throughout the weeks and when you get into bye weeks and stuff like that. Or even if your flex spot is super needy and you're in a really deep league, I think you could look at somebody like Cole Kmet. If you're really, really desperate and wide receivers and running backs are just completely depleted. I know in a 14-team league, Cole Kmet was there, and I thought that was a great flex spot as far as, it was nothing. There was absolutely nothing on the waiver wire. So I know that some people might be in those situations. He's basically available in like all leagues, so you could do worse, and I think that there are moments, as much as I don't like the passing game, and I'm kind of contradicting myself here, I do think that there is touchdown potential when they get into the red zone due to the running backs. So when they do get into the red zone, if and when they get into the red zone in a plus matchup, I don't hate Cole Kmet. So there's the Bears. Let's get into the Lions. The Lions aren't going to be a secret here. The wide receivers are a mess. We don't really know which way to move as far as who's it going to be any given week, so I'm out on that. Jared Goff has been gross, so you don't want any part of Jared Goff. This team is essentially TJ Hawkinson and DeAndre Swift, and they are every week starters. Jamal Williams is worth a roster spot as well, but I think he is still battling injury, so you'd have to see what happens after the bye week. So I would be able to I would be willing to drop him through the bye week to grab somebody else that I can put into my lineup this week. But I do, like the appeal of having Jamal Williams as a handcuff on my team, and sometimes if I'm really, really desperate, I can put him in there in hopes that he slides into the end zone for a touchdown. Green Bay Packers, not much to talk about here. You got Davonte Adams, Aaron Jones, Aaron Rodgers. That's it. You start them all for the rest of the season. There's not much else to say about it. Well, maybe not Aaron Rodgers, and maybe not Aaron Rodgers for the next few weeks, because he did some not so chill stuff by violating COVID protocol. So he might get a suspension. Anyway, Minnesota. This one is pretty easy as well. Kirk Cousins, great. Keep him throughout the season. You could stream people in and out. I don't mind streaming Kirk Cousins. He's probably one of the ones that are a little bit higher, or he's probably like the top streamer. So if you want to hang on to him, I'm willing, you can. But if I'm in a 10-man league, I'm definitely willing to drop Kirk Cousins for somebody like Joe Burrow and see what happens, let him fall, and I'll play the streamer game because there are weeks that Kirk Cousins can really hurt you. Dalvin Cook, keep him rolling. Alexander Madison, it's handcuff season, it's cuffing season, so make sure you got Alexander Madison on your team. Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, they're both wide receiver ones. I get it when you say Adam Thielen can fall to wide receiver 2 status, sure, but that's a really, really good wide receiver 2 if you ask me. So I like both of them. Rest of season, Dalvin Cook for sure. Tyler Conklin, he's a great tight end, but for me, he's still in the streamer category. I definitely have him a little bit higher up on my streamer category when I'm talking about streamers weekly. But he's definitely somebody that still lives in there, and I don't care to roster him if I don't have to. Cowboys, moving on to the NFC East. Moving on to the Cowboys. And like we said, CeeDee Lamb might be banged up in this game. Keep an eye on that. But CeeDee Lamb is a super stud for the rest of the season. Amari Cooper, super stud for the rest of the season. when he's in there. So keep both of them. I'm willing to trade, somebody like Amari Cooper if I can. I've talked about that before. I still think that CD is going to be the number one. So I'm still willing to trade Amari Cooper because I think he'll have more down weeks than CD does. So yeah, there's that with consideration. The tight end, Dalton Schultz. Blake Jarwin's been out for a little bit. Dalton Schultz, I think he is a tight end one every single week as far as starting ability and wanting to keep him in my lineup. He is more than just that, a tight end. And I know we've talked about this on the show and I've said it a couple times already, but he really is more than just a tight end on that team. He's, a great locker room guy. They love him on the offense. He's a leader. So when you're that player, I really want you on my fantasy team. I really want you to, get the ball more, and you're likely to get the ball more when you are that player. So love Dalton Schultz, love him. Zeke and Pollard both got to be rostered. It's cuffing season for Pollard, but Zeke, super stud rest of the year. Like Zeke, keep him rolling. Who else are we missing in this game or this one? Oh, Cedric Wilson. Cedric, was that his name from the Cowboys? That guy that threw the touchdown. Who was the guy that threw the touchdown? We're going to go back to this one. Because I don't hate him as a streamer. Ah, crap. But yeah, I think it's either Tavon Austin or Cedric Wilson. One of the ones I keep forgetting. So we'll go back to that on a former show. But there's another Cowboy that I like as a streamer, especially this week. So I guess we'll talk about that either tonight or on the Game Breakdown show. So we'll go back to that. I don't want to dwell on it too much. We're going into the New York Giants now. And we're going to talk about Saquon Barkley and Devontae Booker first. Both these players need to be rostered. They're going into the Week 10 bye, and I know I said this at the opening of the show, but if Quads is going to be back Week 11, like they claim, Devontae Booker's going to get dropped in a lot of leagues, and I don't think you do that if you're the Devontae Booker manager or the Saquon Barkley manager. If you're the Saquon Barkley manager, you need to have both. I have CMC and Hubbard. If I'm keeping both no matter what, and I'll even trade to get the other one to make sure that I have the replacement every single week, depending on what I'm trading, obviously. If you're trading for a backup, make sure it's backup price. But you got to have those guys on your team. You got to keep Devontae Booker, so even though they're going into a bye, I don't think it's a smart idea to drop him. The wide receivers, Sterling Shepard, you guys know I love him. If he's active, I love him, but the injury concerns are too much. So with that being said, Kadarius Toney easily for me shoots up to the wide receiver one in that offense, but I do think that between him and Darius Slayton, any week he could switch with Darius Slayton to be the number one. So I like Darius Slayton. I like Kadarius Toney on that team. Kenny Golladay is going to come back, but we still haven't seen a rapport with him on that team whatsoever. So it's really going to be just Kadarius Toney and Darius Slayton for me as far as wide receiver goes. I'm really not going to do too much to go and get Kenny Golladay. If he's on the waiver wire and I have room and I'm desperate for wide receiver, okay. But besides that, I'm going to play the streaming game. I'm not going to wait around for Kenny Golladay. Tight ends, no. I don't want any part of the tight ends there. We already talked about that quite a bit this year. Daniel Jones. Don't make me say it again. Don't make me say it again. So, y'all know I love Daniel Jones going into the season, but the consistency has gone in the complete opposite direction the last couple of weeks. So, we got to put Daniel Jones back to streaming category, and in certain games. Now, I mean, last week wasn't a bad game, but at the same time, it's not what I expected from Daniel Jones. I thought Daniel Jones was going to be a 20-point player to 20, 30-point player every single week when you had, great matchups, and we're not seeing that. So he still fits into the streaming category. We're still going to talk about him a lot when we are streaming and stuff like that. I'll still probably play him over somebody like Tua, but especially this week because Tua might be out. But with that being said, I'm taking my Daniel Jones loss for the season where it wasn't that big of a, impact that we thought it was going to be or as I thought it would be. We had a couple good runs early on, and now he hits the streamer market. Moving on to the Eagles. Eagles running back situation is just a filtered mess. So if we see Boston Scott come out this week and not get the full work after wavering a lot of us wavering him this week, oh man, that is going to destroy the backfield even when Miles Sanders comes back. So if we see a super Kenneth Gainwell, heavy game this week, I think we're going to be a big setback and I'm done with Miles Sanders. So we'll watch for that. But if they're going to go straight running back by committee over in Philadelphia, I'm throwing a panic alarm on all of those running backs over in Philadelphia. So with that being said, I am Boston Scott foremost going into this week. I'm hoping that when Miles Sanders comes back, they do give him the full role, but I am super skeptical on that. So if I can unload Miles Sanders, I definitely will. Yeah, Jalen Hurts, that's my man. I can't jump off the ledge yet. I can't. I know people are super nervous, especially after last week, but I'm pretty sure that he's like top 5 quarterback still, even with last week's performance. So I like Jalen Hurts going forward. He has super high potential for me. In certain weeks, if you want to stream and you're scared, I get it. But me personally, I'm going to keep rolling Jalen Hurts out as a quarterback 1 every single week. He was one of my offseason guys that I was super stoked about. He was my quarterback in the offseason that I was like, this is the guy you need to target in your fantasy drafts. He's going to be the most affordable and he's going to pay you back the most. So hopefully we see him to, bounce back to form, but I like Jalen Hurts rest of the season. The wide receivers, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside is out this week and he's out forever. You don't want to put him on your lineup. Jalen Reagor and Quez Watkins, super toss-up, and it's going to keep going back and forth. You guys on the show who watch a lot know I love Quez Watkins, but it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. So Quez Watkins, unfortunately, gets relegated, and it really is just Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert over there for the passing options for me. So I love Dallas Goedert. I think he's a high-end, tight end 2 to tight end 1 category, so I like him a lot going into the end of the season. Moving on to the Washington football team. Oh, they got a racist logo in this picture. Anyway, so Washington football team, Logan Thomas is coming back. I don't know if it's this week, but Logan Thomas is coming back, so keep an eye out on that if you need tight end. Ricky Seals-Jones should get relegated as soon as Logan Thomas does come back. Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissic, I think they're going to be probably even keel between the both of them until we really see Antonio Gibson pop off again and J.D. McKissic hit that back seat. But it's probably going to be a Naeem Hines and Jonathan Taylor role that you saw at the beginning of the season for the remainder of the season. So if I can turn Antonio Gibson into something big, I absolutely will. And I do like keeping J.D. McKissic as an insurance option. If I do have him on my roster, I'd like to hang on to him. As far as the wide receivers over there go, it's Terry McLaurin, and that's about it. So I know I like Curtis Samuel. I want to see Curtis Samuel do things, but I won't until I see Fitzpatrick come back. And we still got a couple more weeks before Fitzpatrick is eligible to come back. So we'll see if Heineke's the starter when Fitzpatrick comes back. But if Heineke's in, Curtis Samuel, his own injuries, probably not going to roster him as much as I love him. So it's basically just Terry McLaurin and Logan Thomas. And I want Logan Thomas. I don't think he's a streamer. I want Logan Thomas if he's in the game. So with that, yeah, Taylor Heineke, he's a streamer in certain weeks, and that's really it that you can take away from the Washington offense. Moving on to the NFC South, and I'm going to start trying to bang through some of these guys here. The Falcons, that sounded terrible. The Falcons, we got Matt Ryan having an off season because he's not throwing touchdowns, so he's going to be a streamer in certain weeks, and you probably don't even want to roster him. Calvin Ridley's out for a long time. We don't know when he's coming back. Like I said, I try to trade him away if I can, so I'm very worried about Calvin Ridley on if he plays again this season, for fantasy, that is. And really, it's just Cordarrelle Patterson on this team right now, besides Russell Gage, that I really like to see, and Kyle Pitts. So Kyle Pitts is an obvious one. You keep rolling with Kyle Pitts. I like Russell Gage a lot. I've talked about him in the offseason a lot. He was one of the players that I paid up a lot to get in Dynasty League. So I'm hoping that Russell Gage really pops off now that Calvin Ridley's gone. I really like Russell Gage, so hopefully that happens. If he's on your waiver wire, I think he's a good speculative ad that you can throw out on your bench and see what happens. But yeah, Kyle Pitts you keep rolling with. Cordarrelle Patterson you keep rolling with. Mike Davis is just getting relegated because of Cordarrelle Patterson, so he's got to be a drop candidate, and you're not going to be able to get much for him if you try to trade him, so he's probably gone. So moving on to the Panthers. Sam Darnold is all over the place, so we're done with Sam Darnold. DJ Moore is losing value because of Sam Darnold. So DJ Moore, you keep rocking with him, but he's more of a wide receiver 2 with wide receiver upside compared to the wide receiver 1 that we need him to be and want him to be. Robbie Anderson, he's gonzo. Terrence Marshall, he's gonzo, and that's because of the Sam Darnold play. So I don't love it. I don't want it. I want the running backs and DJ Moore here, and that's it. So with the running backs, whoever the running back is, whether it be Christian McCaffrey or Chuba Hubbard, I want him. So I want him in my team. Whoever the starter is, I want him in my lineup. The tight ends over there, Tommy Tremble, Ian Thomas. It's definitely Tommy Tremble as like the guy, but he's not really fantasy relevant as far as touchdown dependent. So you got to be really taking a shot on something in the dark or really really hurting at tight end to start somebody like Tommy Tremble, especially with the way that Sam Darnold's been playing. Moving on to the Saints. Now, the Saints are an odd team because, and my podcast listeners, I'm back on podcast, by the way. You're going to get cut off soon. I love y'all. Tune into YouTube. So they got cut off. But Saints, yeah. So moving into the Saints, you're gonna see. I don't know. I just don't understand how you pay Taysom Hill that much money and you don't pay him. So the Saints, for me, the quarterbacks there is stream dependent, and I really don't want to start Taysom Hill if he's not the absolute starter. It worries the heck out of me. So hopefully we see that Trevor Siemian comes in, he's the starter, and then second quarter Taysom Hill comes in or something like that, or second half, I mean, and then we can go back to Taysom Hill. So whoever the quarterback is on the Saints is mostly a streamer for me. Running back, it's Alvin Kamara, baby. Mark Ingram is probably just a compliment. I really don't want to roster Mark Ingram anything aside from a handcuff. It's Alvin Kamara's team for sure. As far as wide receivers, Michael Thomas is done for the season. You can drop him, which keeps us in the same category as what are the wide receivers in New Orleans. They're the same as they've been all year, where you put in Marquez Callaway and just go, please get me 10 points, something like that. You put in, Deontay Harris on the hopes that he gets a bomb touchdown, but I don't like the wide receivers. It's really Alvin Kamara or bust for me. Adam Troutman, he might have a couple games that he sneaks in there, but I'm not trying to find out. So Tampa Bay, what else is there to say about Tampa Bay? If you have Antonio Brown, you hang on to him. If you have Mike Evans, you hang on to him and play him. If you have Chris Godwin, you hang on to him and play him. If you have Gronk, you hang on to him and then you play him. If you have Tom Brady, you play him. The tight ends are really the only thing you can talk about with O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate. So Cameron Brate is clearly in the doghouse. He's dropped too many passes from Brady. So you can start O.J. Howard as a streamer. He's not an every week guy, but he's definitely a solid streamer. The running back situation, Leonard Fournette, I'm still high on Leonard Fournette. If you guys want to be able to take a shot at Leonard Fournette now that he's on the bye week, something like that, I definitely like Leonard Fournette going forward and think he's a great running back too rest of the season. So I like Leonard Fournette. Gonna hang on to him if I can, or trade to acquire him if I can. NFC West, let's get into the Cardinals. Cardinals, they're looking great. Still looking great beside a loss against the Packers. Who cares? It's all right. So Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins not practicing this week, but that's all right. You're going to keep them on your team. You're going to roll them out wherever they're active. Rondale Moore gets super interesting without DeAndre Hopkins in. I like Rondale Moore a lot. Christian Kirk can be streamed if that happens. Zach Ertz looks like a streaming option. If you need that, go ahead. James Conner and Chase Edmonds, I'm still on the same line that they're 1-2 punch, but Chase Edmonds is getting the majority of the work where James Conner is getting the goal line. So I feel like they're both even value there. James Conner's got the touchdown upside more than Chase Edmonds, but Chase Edmonds has the volume upside. So I think they're both good players. They're going to hurt your feelings a couple weeks, but they're also going to pay you back on the dividends on certain weeks. So wide receivers. Yep, we got all of them. Moving on to the Rams. Deshaun Jackson's gone, so Van Jefferson, he might have some appeal. He's got a lot of deep ball games, so keep an eye on Van Jefferson. Pick him up if you're wide receiver needy. But Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp solidified as great every week starts no matter what. Daryl Henderson, I love Daryl Henderson. If you can somehow go out and trade for Daryl Henderson, I'm a big fan of him rest of season, and I love Daryl Henderson. As far as the tight end, Tyler Higbee there, he's a weekly streamer as well. So if there are better options and I can get rid of Tyler Higbee and put somebody else on my team, I don't mind that, and I don't mind dropping Tyler Higbee to grab somebody else depending on the league size that I am in. Wide receivers, quarterback, Matt Stafford. Yeah, you keep rolling with Matt Stafford. Keep him in your lineup. He's a roster place holder. If he's on bye week, you keep him on your team. I like Matt Stafford a lot. San Francisco. It looks like it's going to be Jimmy G's team for the rest of the year with some Trey Lance, interval. So the Trey Lance train is probably done for now. Jimmy Garoppolo is a streamer, as we know. The running backs over there is still a mess. I'm all set with the running backs. I want no part in that. Just like Baltimore, don't want any part in that. Just like Houston, don't want any part in that. So Jimmy Garoppolo, he's a streamer. The wide receivers over there, Deebo Samuel is a super stud. I love Deebo Samuel. He might have a calf injury that keeps him out this week. Oh, God. If that's the case, okay, I guess you can start Brandon Ayuk if you need to. But I'd still rather start so many other people than Brandon Ayuk. I hate Brandon Ayuk. George Kittle is back, so George Kittle, you can finally put him in the lineup. If George Kittle being back gets you an advantage to go trade George Kittle away to somebody else, do that immediately. I don't want George Kittle. You probably already have a tight end set up because he's been out for so long. So if you can look at a tight end needy team and go, I'll give you this guy and whatever, this wide receiver for your great wide receiver, your great running back, I would absolutely do that. Try to use George Kittle's name now that he's coming back, and give the burden to somebody else. I want no part in that. Like I said, you've already survived without him. If you're waiting for George Kittle to come back and thinking it's going to save your team, I strongly suggest trading him, like right now, to get that savior season that you really need, because I don't think George Kittle has the consistency that we all find him to have, and the injury concerns are definitely concerning for me. He's a big dude, Same thing with Christian McCaffrey. That's why I hang on to Chuba Hubbard. These guys are, bowling balls. So when they get injured like that, it lingers. So who the hell are we talking about? Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, which is gross. Tight end. George Kittle. We were just talking about George Kittle. Okay, cool. So now I'm going back to now I'm done with San Francisco. Moving on to Seattle, the final team of the NFC Where Are We segment. And oh man, can we not wait until Russell Wilson gets back. So Russell Wilson, hopefully he comes back cooking. Hopefully they're moving along and they're passing the ball a lot. So if you can get Russell Wilson on the cheap and you need running quarterback, I might do that. Because they are probably going to be without Chris Carson the rest of the season. You got to stay monitored on that. If you're a Chris Carson manager, if you can try to trade him away whenever you can, do it. But you might end up having to drop Chris Carson soon. So Alex Collins should be a good starter for the rest of the year, with Rashad Penny being annoying and Travis Homer being annoying as well in certain games. But DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, it's super game dependent for me, and I'm super scared to roll out Tyler Lockett any given week without Russell Wilson. He had the game, I understand that. He was probably on your bench for it, whatever, I understand that. But it's difficult for me to trust him every single week with Geno Smith. Now, if you have a chance where you can just play him and you throw him in and you go, whatever, I'm going to do it, sure, take the shot. I don't hate it. You could do worse than Tyler Lockett. But what you expect out of Tyler Lockett and what you paid for in Tyler Lockett in the draft, and all those things considered, he's clearly disappointed you in as far as what you wanted out of him. So those are my thoughts on Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. Oh, no, that was my Tyler Lockett thoughts. DK Metcalf, I love DK Metcalf. Keep him in your lineup. And the tight end over there, Gerald Everett, meh, all set. I don't really care for Gerald Everett at all. So everybody, that is the NFC Where Are We Now show, and we are going to be back tomorrow for game breakdowns. I'm going to work on that show now, try to get all my thoughts together, try to get all my, evaluations in my head so I can answer your start-sit questions off the rip like I try to do so quickly on TikTok. Please join me on over there tonight, everybody. I love you. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow for game breakdowns and starts of the week.